Okay. I am Madeleine Brown. I met Lydon Johnson in 1948 and had a 21-year relationship with him. I had a son by him, Stephen Brown, that passed away. It'll be 10 years this month. We had a beautiful relationship, and even today, as I talk about him, my toenails still turn up. Okay? Oh, where do you want me to go from here?
Well, tell me a little bit about your family history a little bit.
Oh, my family?
Yeah.
I was raised or reared by the most wonderful parents that anyone could have. They were really Orthodox Christians, and they lived totally by the Ten Commandments. They were, I'm sure my father gave away as much as we had in our home. And even to this day, there's a mission that Mother Teresa established in, let's see, what year was it? And where our homeland. And I still support it. But where I grew up, and I've often said that this mission is just a living on of what my father, what he did in the old Trinity Heights area.
Okay, now let's talk about the events surrounding John Kennedy's assassination. What do you know happened just prior to the assassination?
Why don't we go back to 1960
Okay,
at the Democrat convention in California. And this came back first-handed from John Currington, that was an aide to H.L. Hunt. When they met in California, Joe Kennedy, John Kennedy's father, and H.L. Hunt met 3 days prior to the election. They finally cut a deal, according to John Currington, and H.L. finally agreed that Lydon would go in the second, or as a vice president. I know there's been lots of talk about this, but this came from the horse's mouth way back in 1960. And when H.L. came back to Dallas, I was walking up Irving Street, which I did almost daily with him, and he made the remark, "We may have lost a battle, but we're going to win a war." And then the day of the assassination, he said, "Well, we won the war." It was a total political thing, a political crime, and H.L. Hunt really controlled what actually happened to John Kennedy. He and Lydon Johnson.
Well, let's talk about the planning of the assassination before it happened. Didn't it go back about a year or so before?
Oh, it started after the convention. H.L. Hunt didn't let it rest. He immediately, they went to mapping a plan out of, or a plot, how to get rid of John Kennedy. They were just in total disgust with John Kennedy.
Well, where did they meet to hold these discussions?
H.L. Hunt had, of course, property everywhere, but they had this lodge up close to, it was outside of Dallas, and they would meet there, and he chose different people to do certain things for him. And I'm sure it went on about 2 years prior to the assassination of John Kennedy.
About where was this lodge?
The best I recall, it was north of Dallas, and it was on well, it's over by a creek. It was very scenic, and it was very secluded, and you really had to be invited there, because if you wouldn't know how to get there.
Did you go out there with Hunt?
I have been there, but it was for a social rather than any planning of the assassination.
No, I know you were not invited in the planning, but I mean socially.
Socially, yes.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm one of few people in Texas that was socialized with all the high rollers. And again, we called them the 8F group. It was fraternity among these people.
Well, let's talk about the 8F group. What do you mean by 8F? What does that mean?
It was, the best I recall, it was their room number at the Lamar Hotel in Houston. And they would meet there for various things, but mostly for gambling and cutting business deals.
Who were the members of the 8F group?
They had to be the Great White Fathers of Texas. Primarily it was your oil people, your high rollers.
By name, who do you...
Oh, there was George and Herman Brown were probably the biggest of all of them, and Hunt, Clint Murchison, Sid Richardson, again, all the big... The finance, I guess that's what I'm looking for.
I mean, was Huffines there? Judge
Huffines, yes, he was part of that group.
John
and
Conley?
Occasionally, John Conley. Occasionally, our FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, would appear there. He hobnobbed with those people, and particularly Clint.
That's an interesting subject. Tell me more about the relationship of J. Edgar Hoover and H.L. Hunt and Sid Richardson and Clint Murchison. What do you know about that?
Well, the first time I met J. Edgar Hoover, I was at the Driscoll Hotel. I had met Lydon probably 6 weeks or so before, and we were dancing there in the Driscoll, and I looked up and I saw J. Edgar Hoover and his companion, and Clint, let's see, Sid Richardson. Yes.
Tolson?
I beg your pardon?
Was his name Tolson?
Yeah. And I remembered from the 30s, the G-Men series. So I said to Lydon, I said, isn't that the G-Man? That's what I called him, you know.
Yeah.
And he said, little girls shouldn't have such big eyes and no ears. And he said, you forget what you saw. But I met him that night.
Yes. Were you around when J. Edgar Hoover was with Hunt or Richardson or Murchison? Or
well,
Johnson?
they were at the party the night before the assassination. All the high rollers in Texas was at Clint's the night before the assassination.
Okay, let's talk about that meeting at Murchison's house. When did that happen?
It was the night before the assassination on Thursday night.
That